Rod, have you ever been to Montana before?
I have not.
What was the sort of the process that led you here? How did they first get in touch with you?
Well, I was supposed to come last year when I was working with the Raiders, and a couple weeks before the event, our head coach switched our days off and told us a couple weeks beforehand, which I couldn't make it. Or I'd have been here last year. But it's the heart of the country. I'm from Indiana. I'm a country boy from Indiana, so it's always good to come back to the heart of what our country's all about.
Bill mentioned it, engineering. You went to an engineering school. I know you wanted to be an engineer once upon a time.
I tried. Wasn't smart enough. I tried to get into Double E at Purdue, and not quite.
Who's some of the best offensive talent in the history of the NFL during the time you were playing? Who are some of the most challenging players you face?
Oh wow, that's a big open-ended question right there, man. I played 17 years. I played against a lot of good offensive players. When you look at quarterbacks, I played against. I haven't counted all of them, but I'm thinking over 10 to 12 Hall of Fame quarterbacks. They all are great in their own right, but I think the best one I've ever played against was Dan Marino. I mean, Dan can run from here to you guys in 10 seconds. It would take him forever, but he could throw that football. He could move in the pocket. He knew how to dip his shoulder, how to read the coverages. And, we were bringing pressure left and right. We could never get to him. And when you look at him, no disrespect to his teammates, but it was normally Danny. I know he had some decent receivers and he had some okay running backs, but he never had great players around him. And it was based on Dan Marino, and when he threw for the 5,000 yards, and it's kind of like a every year occurrence nowadays. But when he did it back then, that's a lot of yards, man. That's like throwing for 8,000 yards now. Nobody thought it could happen. So I just thought he was the best quarterback. And then when you look at receivers, Jerry, I only played against Jerry twice, played against Timmy a couple times, played against Michael a couple times. The guy I played every year that gave me a lot of issues was a guy named Webster Slaughter, old Cleveland Brown guy. Yeah, me and him didn't like each other that much early on. We got in quite a few fights when we were young. Got kicked out of one game, but he was quick. He was fast. Anytime you find a receiver that can change directions on a dime, he's going to create separation from DBs, and he causes DBs headaches. So I would think he was the best receiver that I faced on a consistent basis, along with Andre Reed. I forgot about that, because we did play Buffalo quite a bit, and Andre played in the slot, and big, strong, physical guy in the slot. When you look at Andre, Kelly, and Thurman, that was their offense with a really good offensive line. I mean, these guys nowadays are doing what the K-Gun did with no microphones in their helmets and talking to the quarterbacks. So that was kind of neat. The best running back by far, Barry Sanders. That dude was good. That dude was good. I think the biggest thing with Barry is that he was really the only running back, and we played against Emmett and Edie and all those guys. He was the only guy that we game planned, because we told our outside rushers cannot get up the field. If he ducks left, don't go. Cannot fold, cannot chase. You don't know where he's going, because he's going to come back to you eventually. So when you game plan a running back like that, you got to give him much respect. Tight ends, yeah, none of them are really hard to cover.
How do you think you'd fare against some of the tight end positions? Definitely evolved. You got guys
They're
like
big.
Rams, some of these former basketball players making a lot of athletic plays. You're a pretty athletic safety yourself, though. How do you think you'd fare against some of these guys?
Well, I don't think they would outran me. I think the biggest thing is when you see these receivers that are big nowadays. I mean, like Calvin Johnson. When I first saw Calvin Johnson jog on a field, I'm like, oh my gosh, that dude's a receiver. He looked like a tight end, but he was fast, physical. He still had good movement for a big receiver. Looked like Julio Jones. Julio's the same way. Big, fast, physical guy. Those guys give you headaches. as a DB. The tight ends, you look at Gronk and all those big guys and Jimmy, the catch radius is bigger, is longer because they're taller. As a player, you believe that they're not going to outrun you. So we would do what we always call, we just catch them. We'll catch them at 5 and just run with them. Try to make it tough on the quarterback to throw in a small window.
Now, obviously, you don't want to ruin anything with your speech tonight, but what are some of the key points that you're going to be going over? Obviously, you'll probably talk about adversity. I mean, in '95, you went through that gruesome injury, and you made it back in time for the Super Bowl. I'm sure you'll mention something about that.
Well, I think the biggest thing, just give my life story. My life story is based on adversity. I'm a biracial kid born and raised in Indiana in the mid-'60s. That wasn't the best place to be in the mid-'60s, biracial, so you learn. And I grew up in a household with blue-collar workers. My dad worked 2 jobs. My dad worked for old International Harvester Trucking Company back in the day. And then he cleaned movie theaters at night, and then we went with him to clean the movie theaters. So I've been working since I've been, 7, 8 years old. So it's just a part of life. So I'm going to talk about that, but hopefully the guys start believing in who they are. I think that's the biggest thing. My biggest message tonight is for the kids who are playing is that they got to believe in who they see in the mirror. A lot of kids, you think they believe it because they talk a good game, and they're sometimes very vocal about it. But a lot of times when it really comes down to it, they really don't believe in what they see. And a lot of the help that they can get comes from that same person they see in the mirror. And a lot of times we're always looking for external help. And a lot of times the person in the mirror can do the best job of helping them. And hopefully the kids get that message tonight.
At what point did you start to believe in your own dreams?
Well, that was, I never had a dream about playing in the NFL. I played football because my brothers played football. I was the youngest of 3 boys. They played, I wanted to play. So I started playing, and my youth coach, Dave Rohde, he was the guy that kind of put me on the path of really loving football. He made it fun. He made it enjoyable. And I just remember him telling me when I was really little and I was really fast, he was like, talent's not everything. Learn the game. And I didn't know what he was saying when I was 9 and 10 years old, but over the course of time, he helped me understand what he was talking about. So I just think, he was there. My track coach in high school was there. Ray Sherman, who recruited me at Purdue to go to Purdue, he was the main reason I went to Purdue. He was a great coach for me. And then when I got to the league, I was really blessed for 10 years in Pittsburgh. I had Chuck Knoll, Tony Dungy, had Joe Green was the defensive line coach, and Stallworth, Mike Webster was still there, Donnie Shell was still there. So I got to talk to all those guys. Mel Blunt, the first day I got into the locker room, that dude is a huge human being. And then they left, a guy named Rod Russ came in, and then Rod Russ left, along with John Fox, he came in, and then Bill Cowher, Dick LeBeau, and Tom Capers came in. So for 10 years, I was blessed with a lot of good guys there to teach me a lot about football, a lot about life, and they helped me realize how good I could be in the sport.
You played for several teams that have very distinct identities, especially the units that you were on. Compare and contrast to just some of your experiences both with Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Oakland.
Well, the first one, Pittsburgh we kind of morphed into, that dynasty was kind of gone. When I got there, I think the first year we were 8-8. Second year we were 6-10. And then, but our draft class, it was me, Greg Lloyd, Merrill Hodge, Delton Hall, Thomas Everett. Who else was in there? That was the 87 class. And then we had, my rookie year, we had 2 other guys from the holdover. So from the strike, the scab year, we had 2 of those guys held over, and they were basically rookies. So we had 5 rookies out of our 9 guys in the secondary. So we were all young. So we're all learning from each other. But Tony Dungy was the best teacher because he was patient. He was kind because we did a lot of stupid things on the field with Tony. I think that was a little different than all the other places, because the other places I went to, they were a little more mature. We didn't grow into it. Like when I went to San Francisco for that 1 year, I was trying to get a ring. We lost in the championship game to the Green Bay Packers. And then I went to Baltimore. When I went to Baltimore, they didn't have a great secondary. And I was the older guy in the room. And as they got Dwayne Starks the first year, and then going into the third year, they got Chris McAllister, then I moved to safety, and Kim Herron and Corey Harris, they were back in the backfield with me too in the secondary. It was a little different. I mean, so my bond more so than anything is with my guys in Pittsburgh, because we came in together and we grew up together for a long time. And then Colonel Lake was in that same class, or not that same class, he came in the next year, and we played 9 years together. So we built a strong bond. Those are my guys. Where when I moved, it's a little bit different bond, but the way we played, like if you take away the Pittsburgh Steelers colors and the Baltimore Raven colors, very similar to the way they play. It's tough physical defenses. You're going to feel the hurt the next day. The fans are great and loyal on both sides of the fence. The offenses, they throw the ball all over the place. I mean, that's what the teams are. And you have two great owners. And you know, you had Art Modell, who passed away, and then Bouchatti took it over. But Bouchatti's a really good owner. And then you had the Rooney's, who's been with the Steelers forever. So from the top down, it trickles down to onto the field. And those guys, both teams play very similar to each other.
Who did you want to emulate as a football player growing up?
We had 3 channels. I didn't watch a lot of football.
And one of them was a WGN.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, the not the Pacers, but the Colts they were in Baltimore when I was young. So we watched Cincinnati. We watched, you know, Cleveland, because I was the closest to where Fort Wayne, Indiana was at. Little Detroit. But I played for the Powell Raiders when I was a little kid, and that was like my team. So back in the day, I had Lester Hayes when he had the Jerry curl with the long towel, and he had his hands out like this, and he had to stick them all on his hands. I had that poster in my bedroom. Well, my brother's bedrooms. We shared the bedroom, all 3 of us. But that poster was in our bedroom. I didn't try to emulate anybody on the field. I just tried to work hard like my dad did. And my dad was a blue-collar guy. He worked hard. He didn't complain. He didn't cry about it. You know, when my back was hurt, I wasn't going to cry about it and tell my coach I couldn't practice. I was going to just grit my teeth and fight my way through it. So I think for the most part, I tried to emulate my dad just the way he worked.
Was it a hard decision for you to gravitate away from track?
It was. I started running track when I was about 13 years old, and because we swam competitive first. And then the one thing about football and the one thing about team sports is a perception sport. You know, coaches tell you, well, I think he's good, I'm going to play him. Well, he looks better than this guy, I'm going to play him. Well, he looks better than this guy, I'm going to play him. Track, you can't say that. Well, you're slow. And then you run a 9.9, you go, oh, maybe he's not slow. Well, I mean, it's you and the clock. And that's what I loved about track. And coaches couldn't say anything to you. They couldn't tell you how good you were, how bad you were. You decided how good and bad you were. And that's what I love about it. It was an individual, it was a team sport, yes, but it was an individual sport because that's why they had individual lanes. And it was tough. I wish when I came in '87, I wish they had the rule like they did in '92 when they had the dream team and all that, and you can have your professional status in the same sport. And my sport was different. I was trying to run track. I was trying to make the Olympics in '88, and IOC was like, no, you couldn't, because you had a competitive advantage because you're a professional in football to run track. And we were like, you have no idea what football is then, because that doesn't help you with running hurdles. So that was tough for me, but I still watch it. I normally NBC Sports, they normally show all the track and field things, so I normally watch that quite a bit.
With different rules and proper training, do you think you could have been an Olympian? Yeah,
I mean, I had the 4th fastest time in the world that year, and that was my first time running outdoors in 4 years. And it was only like a 2-month window. That's probably how much I ran outdoors. So I think if I'd have ran the following year and the following year and the following year, I would have hoped I would have got faster. I mean, I don't know, but I would have hoped I would have got faster.
Out of all of your career accolades, what would you, if you could pick one, what's the one that you're most proud of? The interception return for a touchdown record, that's pretty awesome.
Getting into the Hall. I mean, what else can you want? I mean, my bus is bronzed into the dorms in Canton, Ohio. Can't leave it, can't get away. And so if it's right, wrong, or indifferent, I'm there. And I mean, it's, I started playing football not thinking about being a Hall of Famer. I mean, and when I went in 2009, I was a 253rd individual, not player, individual, who went into the Hall. I mean, that's 253 people in the history of pro football to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. That's, to me, still so surreal. It's been quite a while. I've been in there for quite a while, but even my kids, we've gone there a couple of times, and I'll go back this year because Ray is going in. That's my guy. But to go back and see your bust in that room, and with all the other greats, it's pretty amazing.
That's the next question I was going to ask. How awesome is it to have Ray here this year? And I mean, that was your teammate. We won the Super Bowl together.
That's my guy. That's my guy. We did a lot of growing up. When I first got there, he was in his 3rd year. I was in my 12th year. So we grew quite a bit together. But he's a good man, great football player. He wasn't, when I first got there, he wasn't the best leader, but by the 3rd year, he became one of the best leaders I've seen in quite a while, because he understood when he should say something to the players, when he shouldn't say something, when to correct a guy, when to praise a guy. I mean, he did it with love and compassion and with passion. So, he did his little squirrel dance before every game and all that stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see if he does the squirrel dance when he comes out at the Hall.
Do you think he's the hardest hitting player you've ever played with?
No, I can't say that one, because Greg Lloyd,
He's playing with Kevin Green.
Kevin Green.
It's like, come on.
I mean, Greg Lloyd, Kevin Green, Hardy Nickerson. We called him hardware for a reason. I mean, Hardy Nickerson. I played with Chad Brown, Levon Kirkland was a tough downhills, north and south linebacker. David Little, when I first came in the league, David Little, he went to a couple Pro Bowls with the Steelers. He was an old school downhills Mike backer. It's kind of hard to say if he was the hardest hitting backer. I think he was the best overall backer. He can read and react. He was a great studier of the game, great student of the game. I think as he got older, he got even better because he believed in his anticipation and what he read in the film study and what he saw on the field. He just took off and he believed it, and that made him really good at the end of his career too.
What are some of the qualities that make a football player into a great football player?
Commitment, respect, responsibility, hard work, dedication, integrity, grit. Yeah, at the end of the day, no matter how athletic you might be, it's still a physical game. It's still a contact sport. You're still going to have to bite your mouthpiece 4 or 5 times in a game and make a hit. That all goes into becoming a great player. But I think really, at the end of the day, it's what Chuck Noll told me my 2nd week in the league, is that talent is not everything. You have to learn the game mentally. And when he first said it, you don't really get it when you're young, but as he left and the other guys came in, I started realizing that, everybody, even these kids here at Montana State, they're all athletic. They're all here for a reason, These freshman kids, these coaches never touched them, but they still come here and get scholarships for a reason, because they're athletic in some capacity. Some are faster, some are stronger, some are quicker. But it's the guy who can take his film study personal, what he gets from his coaches, what he gets from his peers, apply that back in practice every day and back in games, and have that recall in games. Those guys separate themselves from the average kid to the great players. in all sports.
Last 10 years or so, football's been surrounded by a lot of controversy just in terms of head injuries and the way guys feel after they've been retired for a long time. What do you think of just the state of the game right now?
I love the game. Everything I have in my life, I have because of football. So I can't, and I'm letting my boy play football. So, you know, I believe in the game, and you know, the lawsuit was predicated not because of the head injuries, it's because of the information that was not given. That's the reason. So I think, you know, we got to make sure that's correct. And then secondly, it's been good. The information that's given, the lawsuit has been good because now guys are more in tune to say, hey, I have a blurred vision, I have a headache, I feel nauseous. And they're okay to say that because back in the day, that was like taboo to say. You know, you weren't tough if you said you had a headache after you made a big hit. You know, you weren't tough if you said you felt nauseous. You weren't tough if you said you had blurred vision. Now we're saying, no, don't be tough, be smart. And kids are saying they have those symptoms, and then they go into concussion protocol. So I think it's way ahead. You know, now the new rule that they have where they're going to start injecting people, that's very interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how they really implement that rule and how they, I don't even know how you understand if somebody has intent or not. I don't, intent's inside of you. So if somebody's psychic in the building, maybe they'll get it right, but it's going to be interesting to see how they do that one. So I'm a fan of the sport. I'm a fan of where they're going with it. I just want to see how they implement it, and then I can make more comments on that one, but I love the stage of the game.
Sounds like it's kind of a difference between a regular personal foul in basketball and flagrant foul.
Well, it is, but now they're saying even running backs, if they duck their head, I just don't know how they get low. You can't duck your shoulder without ducking your head. Your head's going to go down naturally. And if it goes down and it makes contact with the crown, I just say just use your spearing rule. You already have it. Just use that. I think that'll help everybody. That'll help the refs. That'll help the fans. Just make the game easier that way.
And don't ear roll anybody.
And don't ear roll. That's right.
If you could pick, was there one secondary player that you modeled your game after? I mean, you talked about Mel Blount.
No, because when I was a safety, so I like hard-hitting safeties and stuff like that, and Ronnie Lott was that guy when I first came in the league. But they moved me to corner, so I had to like adapt how to play corner, and there's a lot of good corners when I came in the league. So when I went to my first Pro Bowl after my third year as a kick returner, I went to Hanford Dixon, Frank Minifield, Albert Lewis. Those guys were at the Pro Bowl. I just asked them questions. I started picking their brain about what they see and how they play and how they cover guys and what's the little tricks of the trade that you can kind of get away with and the refs don't see you. And they start telling me, and I'm like, oh, yeah, this is a lot easier. And at the same time, that's when I really started working out in the off season. I mean, my first 3 years, I was just kind of like, I went golfing, hit the ball, jogged to my ball, hit the ball, jogged to the next one, hit the next one, jog. And I did my little 18 holes, and that was my workout. And then after my third year, that's when I really started working out. Started getting up at 6:30 in the morning, started swimming, I got back into the pool, got to the track, and really the main reason was because Carnell Lake, he was a workout fanatic. So I had to start going out with Carnell, and we just start working our butts off. Made it easy.
It's way too early, but I gotta ask, any teams that you think are gonna be in the Super Bowl next season?
Well, I like, when you look at the NFC, you have to love Philly again. You're getting your quarterback back. That dude is, Carson Wentz is pretty special. I mean, he can throw that rock. But then you add a Michael Bennett and a Lodi Nada to the defensive front already. I mean, it's not fair. And then you look at LA getting a Dominic Sue, who's a talented, rare specimen, and he's going to be playing with the best interior tackle in Aaron Donald in the league. I mean, Aaron Donald's unblockable when he's going. And then they brought in Talib and Marcus Peters. So Wade Phillips is going to play man-to-man, tight coverage, and go get that quarterback, which that's a good formula to win a lot of football games. And if they, as an offense, if they play the same way, that might be the championship game right there. That'd be a fun championship game to watch, the Rams and Philly. I think when you look at the AFC, Tom Brady's playing, you got to like New England. I mean, the dude is good, and so he's always going to make them competitive. If you look at Pittsburgh, it's about their defense. Their defense has to step up to the plate. They got a good offense. They didn't lose to Jacksonville because of their offense. They lost to the defense. They haven't had a playmaker for quite a while on the defensive side, and so they need to find that in the draft. If they do that, I think they have an opportunity also in AFC. And Jacksonville's a young, good team. Got to see how Boyle does. If he can add to what he can't be the same guy he was this past year. He has to add to that. If he gets better, that makes them better. But if he stays status quo, then they'll be competitive because their defense is really good. But they won't get to the Super Bowl.
Anything more? All right.
Good.
Well, I just need to take a picture because my shooter didn't show up. And of course, this is my camera.
There you go.